folks. I'm Ramwise Gamgee, and this is Quick and Dirty Roleplaying. In this video, I'll talk about the strangest percentile distribution I've ever encountered in a TTRPG, that being from the Ascendant core rulebook by Alexander Macris. As a disclaimer, this is going to be a theory crafting and statistics-oriented topic, which, for someone like me, is something I take a great interest in as it pertains to game design. I am of the opinion that if you're designing a game, you should know how your game's math works so that you can get the mechanics to align with your vision on how the game is supposed to run. As a reference for this video, I've provided a link to the Ascendant GM screen in the description, which has the challenge action resolution table, or chart, on the second page of the full-size preview. Normally, I would provide a link to the Ascendant preview product page, which was a free download, but it's no longer available. And the document is watermarked, so I'm not going to distribute it. So the gist of the chart is as follows. Whenever someone is trying to determine the outcome of uncertain events in the game, that requires a challenge check, which is a D100 roll. To determine what kind of outcome occurs from the challenge check, you need two values, the acting value and the difficulty value. The acting value will almost always be an attribute of the character making the challenge, while the difficulty value is usually the attribute of the character resisting or opposing the challenge. So it's PvP. Or it's reflective of how difficult the task is in cases of PvE. As an example, if one character is chasing another, you get the acting value from the pursuer's speed and the difficulty value from the pursuee's speed. Once you have the acting value and the difficulty value, you can figure out the resolution value by subtracting the acting value from the difficulty value. To continue from the previous example, if the pursuer's speed is 4 and the pursuee's speed is 3, the resolution value for this challenge check is 1. Now that you have a resolution value, you can now make use of the chart. The first two columns on the left, RV attack and RV other, are very important because the RV, or resolution value, you're going to reference depends on whether or not the challenge check is an attack or is something else. In the ongoing example, a pursuit on foot is not an attack, so we'll use the RV other column to cross-reference our D100 roll. Since our resolution value in this example is 1, when you roll D100, you're going to go down the RV other column to where it says 1, and then you make your roll, and then you see which color outcome or which color result you get by checking the range that your roll falls under. Speaking of color outcomes, red is considered triumphant, or a triumph. Orange is considered a critical success. Yellow is considered a major success. Green is considered a minor success. And white is considered a failure. So basically, the process is determine what resolution value you're using, roll the dice, and cross-reference the roll with a corresponding color result to determine the outcome. Now here's the thing. I hate needing to reference a table to determine task resolution. If the results are easy to remember, then I don't mind. But unless you've committed this chart to memory, everyone at the table needs easy access to this chart in order to play this game in a smooth fashion. Furthermore, as far as my attempts at figuring out the math behind the chart and how to reproduce those results goes, it's beyond my comprehension, and that's the crux of this video. So naturally, I started to study the chart to determine how Alexander Macris got these numbers. The chart was clearly inspired by TSR's Marvel Superheroes RPG from the 80s, which used a similar cross-referencing chart with color-coded outcomes. The math there, however, was a lot more uniform, and despite Mutants and Masterminds using the D20 system, the math in Mutants and Masterminds works remarkably similar to Marvel Superheroes RPG, with ever-increasing degrees of success being achieved every 25%, or every plus 25%. However, this is not the case with Ascendant. In Ascendant, every quality that can be measured is measured in a universal unit called supermetric points, or SPs. Every time the SPs of a quality increases by 1, the value of that quality effectively doubles. With this principle in mind, I expected the chance of success to double, or, to put it another way, for the chances of failure to halve for every point of resolution value above 0. If you look at the chart, however, that's not the case. And the reason that's not the case is because it's not simply a matter of success or failure, it's a matter of triumph, or critical success, or major success, or minor success, or failure. It's 5 results, not 2. Even then, I expected that the portion of probabilities of these probability ranges for the success outcomes will need to be split among them, while the failure outcome got its own ever-shrinking portion as resolution value went ever higher than 0, or ever-growing as resolution value went ever lower than 0. Even then, I didn't understand how Macris got those numbers on the chart. So I actually reached out to him on the Autark Discord to figure out how he got these numbers, presenting the algebraic formula that I used, to which he corrected. He pointed out that each color result had a point value to them. Green was 1, yellow was 2, orange was 4, and red was 8. This made sense to me, as those are the damage multipliers used when determining damage output. I was also directed to the designer's note that soon follows that part of the book, which states the following. Excuse me. The key to understanding the chart is to remember that each additional 1 SP of a quantity has a value equal to double the amount of the previous SP. Therefore, each 1 SP change in resolution value should double or halve the expected outcome of the use of an attribute or power. If you multiply the value of the color results, times 1 for green, times 2 for yellow, times 4 for orange, and times 8 for red, by the percentage likelihood of each color for each resolution value, then the expected values on the resolution value other column for resolution values of -3 to 3 are 0.12, 0.24, 0.5, 1, 2, 4, and 7.75. The value roughly doubles with each point of RV, just as it should. To this day, I'm still drawing a blank as to what, excuse me, not the last sentence, from the third sentence on, what that all means. So if I'm understanding correctly, for resolution value of 0, 8 times 1%, which is the percent likelihood for getting a red result on RV0, is supposed to equal 1? I'm fucking confused as all hell. Try as I might to reproduce these same numbers with different dice mechanics, like 2d6, 3d6, 4 fudge dice, etc. I've been unable to mathematically reproduce these same probabilities, and it wasn't until recently that I found out why. Let's start by taking a look at the row for RV other 0. An RV of 0 means that the person initiating the challenge check is undertaking a challenge where they are evenly matched. On a roll of 51 to 100, they fail, while on a roll under 50 or less, they produce some kind of success. As far as these successes are concerned, a minor success is the most common, with a 24% likelihood of occurring. Then we have a major success, being the next most common, at 15%. Following that, we have a critical success, with a 10% chance of occurring. And finally, a triumph is the least likely result, occurring only 1% of the time. So if this were a long multicolored balloon with 5 bands that control for air distribution, a resolution value 0 balloon would be largest at the white portion, then the green, then the yellow, then the orange, and finally a tiny nub at the red end. Now let's look to our RV other 1 balloon. At RV1, the air distribution changes drastically, with the white portion only having 2% of all the air, the green portion with 48% of the air, the yellow portion with 30% of the air, the orange with 17% of the air, and the red with 3% of the air. Not only is a minor success the most likely result, but there's also no chance of failing, 2%, when the challenger is twice as effective, just plus 1 RV, as the challenge at hand. Major successes are twice as likely with RV1 as they were from RV0, and critical successes have received a somewhat slight increase from RV0, up by 7%. Next, we have our RV other 2 balloon. At RV2, the air distribution has once again caused our probability balloon to take a drastically different shape. Both the white and the green portions are maximally atrophied at 1% air each, while the yellow has, by yellow I mean major success, has taken on the greatest percentage of air, 43%, followed by orange, 32%, followed by a substantially bigger red, 23%, much greater than its previous 3% from simply 1 resolution value lower. Finally, we have our RV other 3 balloon. Again, a completely different beast from its predecessors, as the red portion has taken up as much of the air distribution as possible, 96%, leaving the least amount of air possible for the other color results, 1% each. So it's still statistically possible to not only fail, but to get any other result other than a triumph. Again, to this day, I'm still unable to wrap my head around the math behind the chart, but the intention behind its percentile range distributions tells me the following. When you're evenly matched, there's a 50% chance of failure, and the higher the degree of success, the less likely it is to achieve. So it's like boom, 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 boom. At this level of challenge, triumphs are flukes. When outmatched, the chance of failure becomes twice as likely for every -1 RV, and the chance of each type of success becomes half as likely for every -1 RV. Triumphs are impossible to achieve when outmatched. And when I was trying to basically use different dice distributions to kind of reproduce this this chart, so to speak, I kind of ended up getting the reverse of that as it got better and better, or as like the RV difference, as the RV got higher, so to speak. Like, yes, it was possible to have a better chance of getting every kind of result, but at the end of the day, the least likely results were triumphs. No, now to continue from that. So when RV other is at 1, you outmatch the challenge by 2 to 1. The most common result one should achieve should be a minor success, but major successes should occur more than half as often as minor successes, and critical successes should occur a bit more than half as often as major successes. Triumphs are still flukes, but they happen 3 times as often. When RV other is 2, you outmatch the challenge by 4 to 1. The most common result one should achieve is a major success, followed closely by a critical success, followed closely by triumphs. Minor successes and failures are flukes at this level of effectiveness. When RV other is 3, you outmatch the challenge by 8-1. Triumphant results are the order of the day, and any result below that is a fluke. This vision of what it means to be twice as good, 4 times as good, or 8 times as good, all within the span of 1 point differences in SPs, makes for significantly lower granularity on the scale of percentage distributions than the resolution chart that inspired this, that being the one from TSR's Marvel Superheroes RPG. Despite this low granularity, the distributions do make sense when actually taking note as to how significant it is to be multiple times more effective or less effective than the challenge at hand. Whereas in the Marvel Superheroes RPG of the 80s and Mutants and Masterminds, it was pretty jarring when someone who was supposed to be, by the numbers, 4 times as effective as the challenge at hand, only to have a plus 10% better chance of success. Again, the actual math behind this remains a mystery to me, since I've never done any pre-calculus math or more advanced, and I failed statistics back in college. When figuring out dice probabilities beyond the use of algebra and basic functionality with anydice.com, my best tool is applying logic, which is how I figured out the dice probabilities for the Mistborn adventure game. But that's a topic for another video. And this concludes my analysis on the strangest percentile distribution I've encountered in a tabletop role-playing game. Strange in its distribution, but quite calculated in its intent as I've come to understand it. If you'd like to leave a comment, please keep it respectful and relevant. Until next time, take care folks, and play to find out what happens.